Okay, hopefully this video is working. So we'll do a bit of a demo on some of the activities from chapters 5 and 6. So of course chapter 5 was mostly about Ethernet and Ethernet switching. So basically there's not a lot to play with there. We will, and of course there was things about MAC address as well, but I'll actually look at the MAC address side of things a little later once we've configured the router and switch, which is part of chapter 6. Okay, so I've just connected to the switch, and so of course I need enable, and then we need configure terminal, of course again a global config mode. Now I'm just going to play around with int G0/1, so the first gigabit interface on the switch, and we'll just have a look at some of the settings that are available. So of course in chapter 5 it spoke about some of the settings you can make to Ethernet and options available. So one of them was duplex. So if I just type in duplex and good old space question mark, and so there's 3 options available. So auto, which of course is basically auto detection of what the other end is using, and it will follow suit. Of course, you can do duplex full or duplex half, and so basically you can force it to be one or the other. So of course, full duplex is the more desirable because you've got traffic in both directions at the same time. But if you've got a device on the other end that doesn't support that, well, you're just going to have to set it to half, especially if the auto detection does not work. There is when it comes to settings for the ports, there is also, you can change the speed. This is why I chose the gigabit port, because it's got more options. And so you can set it to 10 megabits a second, 100, or 1,000, which of course is gigabit. But of course the default setting is auto, and so that is what is normally what runs. And so again, that's another one that's an option. Now, MDIX and then question mark, there only seems to be one option, auto. So if you wanted to turn that off, you would actually do no MDIX. So this is for, whether you use a crossover connection or not. So if you do no MDIX auto, that will turn the option off, and so it will just stay in its default setting, normal setting. And so that's basically all there is for chapter 5 from the curriculum, other than MAC addressing, which I will cover a little later. All right, so chapter 6, of course, is all about IP, so IP addressing and when gateways are used and things like that. And so basically from here, we'll start playing around with a host to start with. So if you look at this diagram, of course, I've actually got 2 routers, a switch, and a host, and so there's 2 networks. So 192.168.1.0, that's the LAN, and then I've just got a point-to-point link between 2 routers just to make it a little more interesting. And so that's 192.168.2.0 is that network. And so I've got the individual host numbers there, and so we'll basically configure this for that to happen. So of course we need to go to the router first. Okay, so let's just try that again. So we've already looked at the switching, so now we'll go into the router, and so from there, so we're in user exec mode. We need EN to get to privileged exec mode, and then configure terminal to get to global config mode. We'll set the host name without a typo, hopefully, to R1, and so that's changed. We then need to do passwords, don't we? So there's enable secret class. There is, of course, line con 0 to do the console connection, and so we do password Cisco and then log in. can do line VTY 015, and again password and login. So that's all our passwords set, other than there is service password encryption. And so that will, of course, stop people from gazing over your shoulder. Now, so that's the very basic stuff. So I might just exit and do a show run. And so we have an enable secret, we have a host name. Haven't done the interfaces yet, I'll do that next. And then we have that password that's been encrypted for both the VTY and the console lines. So looking pretty good. All right, so now we need to do the interfaces. So conf T again, interface G0/0, set an IP address. IP address 192.168.1.1. Subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And we can do a description. LAN int. And then we can do the other. Ooh, let's do a no shut. Turn it on. And then we can do our other interface, 0/1. That's the .2.1. And description of point to point interface will do. So again, no shut. And end. Of course, to save the settings, copy, run, start. And let's do a show run now. And so, of course, we had a look at those previously. And so now you can see the settings here. And so, description of LAN interface for that one, it's got an IP address. And as you can see, these are the default settings for duplex and speed for those interfaces as well. So, all very handy. Now, we seem to have lots of green lights everywhere, so that's a good thing. So, to get things talking, let's configure the desktop as well. And so this needs 192.168.1.10 with a subnet mask of 24 bits. That's good. And of course, the router's IP address is 192.168.1.1. And so that is the gateway on the same subnet. So after that, we should be fixed. We can do IP config. Make sure it's all correct. Looks good. Now, the chapter spoke about ARP. Before I communicate with any other hosts, let's do ARP -A. And that shows us the entire ARP table. My computer hasn't spoken to anyone yet, so it doesn't know anyone yet. So if I ping 192.168.1.1, and so we are pinging, so the host is replying to us. And so if I do that ARP command again, I now have that entry. So my host actually had to send out an ARP request to find out the MAC address, which is that there for the router. So I can then, of course, go to the router and see what its ARP table looks like. So show IP ARP. And I might widen that just to make it a little easier to read. And so, like in the chapter slides, there's this one here, which is the router's own interfaces. That's why they have a dash there. And this is the entry for the host that pinged it. And so it learnt the MAC address from the frame as it arrived. And that is the host's MAC address. And so they know how to talk to one another. It's all very good. Now, we can also get it to get the host to ping the other end. So there's 192.168.2.2. So we can try that. See how that goes. Ping 192.168.2.2. Now there might be an ARP request waiting out there, but yeah. So the router 1, you only saw the external ARP entry for my host. Now if we go back to router 1, it will actually have an entry for the other router as well. It's thinned down, of course. And so you can see that there's an extra one that's been added in. So this IP address has also been added. And so it's so that was why that first one failed, was because of the ARP request. So you've got these two dynamic entries, as it were. Yeah, so that's ARP we've looked at on both ends. I've done some pinging. I suppose we could have a look at the routing table on this router. Show IP route. And so it's got two directly connected networks. This is, of course, is the LAN. This is that point-to-point link. And so there's two separate network entries there. And so you can see the IP address that I set for each of those is, of course, that L entry that we were looking at before. If we look at the host, I'm not sure if this will work on a packet tracer host, but it's worth a try. So net stat -r. Have a look at that. So we have a route, a default route. It's not quite complete, but anyway, we have the default route of quad 0, and the gateway to get to it, of course, is our gateway. And of course, it's our interface is 1.10. And so that's how we get out of our host. It needs to get to that host before it can get to the rest of the world, basically. Let's do route print, see if that works. Doesn't know that one. Ah, well. Netstat -r is good enough. All right, so that's a very basic rundown of it all. So what really has happened is we've set up this host as with its own IP address information. Of course, we've set it there. We've set the host number. We've set its mask, which of course tells it what part of the IP address is its network number. And then, of course, we've set the gateway to tell it who its router is. And so with that information, it was enough for it to be able to talk to the rest of the network, as long as the router knows how to talk to them. Suppose we haven't set up the switch yet. So what we could do, I won't do the entire switch thing because, well, we've done it before. And yeah, it's the same as the router, everything else. So of course, to get an IP address on a switch, you need to do interface VLAN1. You set the IP address to 192.168.1.2, 255.255.255.0. And then it needs to be told its gateway. So we can exit IP default gateway 192.168.1.1. And so if we exit, let's do a copy run start. Now let's try some pinging from here. So ping 192.168.1.1. We'll ping the router. Again, there's probably an ARP request that's got to go. Did I do a no shut? I didn't, did I? Yes. Gotta love it when you forget to do something. Let's do a no shut. Let's have the interface up. That's much better. All right, let's try that ping again. All right, there still will need to be an ARP request, but hey presto, it worked. We can ping the host as well if we like. Again, there will be an ARP request. I'm hoping we can ping that other router on the other side of the line. That's not working happily. It's very strange. Can this one ping that router still? That would be bizarre. Let's do a show run. I didn't make a typo in the gateway, did I? The IP default gateway command didn't stick. What happened there? Or didn't I do it? I don't see it. Very strange. IP default gateway 192.168.1.1 and copy run. No. Run start. Let's try that ping again. That's better. I don't know why it didn't stick. So show run, and so for some reason that line did not go in. Oh well, that's why show run helps you. Okay, so we have full connectivity. So yeah, that will probably do it for this demo today, and so we can carry on. Yeah, so next week we'll be doing chapters 7 and 8. And so we'll be looking at TCP, at least with chapter 7. So, wait a minute. Sorry. Chapter 7 is more advanced IP, and then chapter 8 is subnetting. Sorry. TCP is chapter 9. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'll see you next week in our next video. And yeah, have a nice day. See you later.